If bigoted people lead a country, it will collapse. Introduction. The functioning of a modern state relies fundamentally on principles of inclusivity, rationality, and the equitable distribution of rights and opportunities. When leadership is driven not by pragmatic governance but by ingrained prejudice and bigotry, the very foundation of national cohesion begins to erode. A country steered by bigoted individuals, whose policies are designed to favor one group while marginalizing others based on race, religion, ethnicity, or ideology, inevitably faces severe internal strife and eventual collapse. This essay will explore how bigotry in leadership breeds systemic injustice, stifles economic progress, and fractures the social contract necessary for national survival. Erosion of institutions through systemic injustice. Bigoted leadership views governance not as a service to all citizens but as a tool for reinforcing the dominance of a preferred group. This immediately leads to the systematic dismantling or weaponization of state institutions. Justice systems become tools of oppression, where laws are applied arbitrarily based on identity rather than evidence. Meritocracy, the engine of professional public service, is replaced by nepotism and sectarian loyalty. For example, historical analysis of authoritarian regimes often reveals that key positions in the military, judiciary, and civil service are filled by individuals selected for their shared bias rather than their competence. This degrades the quality of decision-making across the entire state apparatus. When technical expertise is sidelined for ideological purity, infrastructure projects fail, public health initiatives flounder, and security services become instruments of persecution rather than protection. Stifling economic potential. A nation's long-term prosperity is inextricably linked to its ability to utilize the full talent pool of its population. Bigotry actively prevents this by excluding vast segments of society from education, employment, and investment opportunities. If a significant portion of the skilled workforce is denied access to advanced roles because of their background, innovation stalls and economic output declines. Furthermore, internal conflict fueled by discriminatory policies diverts national resources from productive investment into internal security and surveillance. International relations also suffer profoundly. Bigoted policies often lead to isolation, trade sanctions, or diplomatic crises, cutting the country off from global markets and necessary foreign investment. The economic decay resulting from systematic exclusion creates widespread poverty, which in turn fuels further resentment and instability, creating a destructive feedback loop from which recovery becomes increasingly difficult. The fracture of the social contract. The implicit agreement between the governed and the government, known as the social contract, rests upon mutual respect and the promise of protection. Bigoted leadership systematically violates this contract. When leaders openly express disdain or actively legislate against minorities, trust in the state vanishes among those targeted groups. This loss of trust is not merely psychological, it manifests as civil disobedience, low tax compliance, and a refusal to participate in civic life. In extreme cases, this breakdown leads to organized resistance or civil war. The state's authority is no longer accepted universally but is enforced only through coercion against those deemed outsiders. A nation cannot sustain itself when large populations actively withdraw their consent to be governed. The Balkan conflicts of the late 20th century serve as potent, tragic reminders of how ethno-nationalist bigotry, once cemented in state policy, rapidly accelerates the disintegration of multi-ethnic societies. Conclusion. Leadership founded upon bigotry is inherently self-destructive. It replaces reasoned policy with divisive ideology, undermines the competence of the state through purges and patronage, and alienates large segments of the population whose loyalty and productivity are essential for national strength. By prioritizing narrow sectarian interests over the collective good, bigoted leaders ensure systemic injustice, economic stagnation, and the eventual collapse of the social cohesion that holds a country together. A nation cannot stand securely when its own government actively seeks to dismantle the dignity and rights of its citizens.